Hi everyone, if you're looking to get started in IT, then this video should be useful to you. In getting started in IT, there are two things which are very relevant, especially if you don't have an IT background. These are IT Homelab projects and IT certifications. So IT Homelab projects are personal projects that you design and build from the comfort of your home or small office. So an IT Homelab project can be physical or it can be virtual. So in a physical Homelab project, you probably will build a computer from scratch by installing the various components. You probably will get it up and running by installing an operating system and applications. You probably will perform certain networking functions like connecting it to a switch or a server, but all the things we've mentioned can also be virtualized. So in a virtual Homelab project, you install computers as virtual machines using something we call a hypervisor. So a hypervisor is a software that enables you to simulate all these computers on your PC. So you will be running operating systems on top of your PC's operating system. And there are different types of hypervisors. First of all, we have two types. We have the type 1 and type 2. So type 2 installs operating systems and switches and all the network appliances on top of your operating system. And that is what is used for personal projects. But in the industry or in large corporations, you probably use what we call a type 1 hypervisor or bare metal hypervisor. So that one removes or strips off the operating system and it runs directly on the hardware. So it doesn't need to run on top of an operating system. And that gives you better performance, and it's used in corporations and hardly used in a personal setting, especially when you just want to experiment and gain some hands-on experience. So if you go on my channel, you see that I have uploaded several videos previously where I walk you through how to install different types of systems running a Windows Server, Ubuntu, and a Kali Linux, or a Windows 10, Windows 11 on different types of hypervisors. So in this video, I'll try to show you how to install different types of virtual machines and have this topology that I have in the background. And you install them as virtual machines because it's cheaper, it's convenient, and it's easy to follow. But if you want to go the extra mile and purchase hardware and learn how to install all these hardware, then I'll encourage you to do so. But before we talk about Homelab projects, I'll quickly mention IT certifications. So IT certifications are awarded by professional bodies or well-recognized institutions in the industry after passing the relevant examinations, and it validates your skills in certain areas of IT, and it shouldn't be confused with certificates in IT. So a certificate in IT will probably be obtained when you take a short course online or you take a course offered by a university, an IT introductory course, but you can't compare that to an IT certification in terms of value. So if you go online, which we probably will do quickly, and you search some of these IT certifications in your LinkedIn or Indeed, you realize that you have so many job hits, but if you search for some of the certificates in IT offered by probably Coursera, Udemy, or any other platform, you probably will find very few opportunities. So some of the leading institutions and bodies that award IT certifications include CompTIA, Microsoft, Cisco, Oracle, and a host of others. And I will encourage you to learn more about IT certifications and consider pursuing some of them. In a subsequent video, I hopefully will guide you through some of the IT certifications and what they offer. So let me quickly mention some of the entry-level certifications offered by some of these professional IT bodies and well-recognized institutions. So for CompTIA, we have the CompTIA IT Fundamentals, we have the CompTIA A+, the Network Plus, and the Security Plus. For starters, I will recommend CompTIA A+. IT Fundamentals doesn't have a lot of job hits, but CompTIA A+, we will quickly search on LinkedIn, you have many hits. For Microsoft, we have Microsoft 365. We also have one for Azure, which is cloud. So Microsoft Azure fundamentals. I believe you have Microsoft 365 fundamentals. You have Microsoft AI fundamentals. These are all entry level. For Cisco, it's more of networking. They say it's an entry level, but it's more of an associate. So it's more difficult. So we have the Cisco CCNA. So we'll quickly search for these three and see what pops up. Okay, so on LinkedIn, let's quickly search for some of these IT certifications. So let's go to the Jobs tab. And in the Jobs tab, choose search and then type CompTIA. Let's not be too specific. So just the awarding body, and let's search worldwide and see what will come up. Yes, so the number of hits, and for entry level, you should probably be looking at something like an internship or IT desktop support, IT support specialist. These are entry level roles. I mean, you can actually specify the experience level if you want to, but let's just go through and see if we'll find CompTIA. So in this IT internship, let's scroll down and see. So in here, it's saying that you should know about help desk ticketing systems. Yes, so in here we have CompTIA A+, we have Microsoft Certified Professional. These are some of the certifications you probably should have. So we have CompTIA, we have Microsoft. We don't see any Udemy or Coursera certificates here. Let's check another one out. So in here we see we have Singapore. So let's choose Singapore. This is IT desktop support. It's mostly an entry level role. Yes, and it said it here. It's entry level. And so let's scroll down and see what we find. So yes, in the description, we can clearly see there's CompTIA A+, Security+, Network+. There's Microsoft Certified Windows Client. Let's probably narrow down the search a bit for my African viewers. Let's probably, I don't know if I can have Africa as a whole. Okay, so I can have Europe, Middle East, and Africa, or Sub-Saharan Africa. So let's see for Africa, let's check Western Africa. Yes, so there are a number of opportunities in Western Africa. So this is, the first one is in Nigeria. Let's go through. Yes, so we have CompTIA A+, Network+, Microsoft Certified Solutions Associate. These are some of the certifications you can take. And I want to look out for Ghana. Let's quickly check Ghana. I think I can narrow it down a bit more to Ghana. Yes. And let's see what comes up. So there are currently two. I'm sure on LinkedIn, a lot of jobs after they are secured are either archived or removed. So you don't see many here, but at least we see CCNA, which is mandatory. And CCNA, as we said, is for Cisco. So it's CCDP and CCNP. But we have CompTIA Security Plus here. But in fact, this role is not entry level, it's mid-level, mid-senior level. Yes, of course, it's a manager. But there's, I believe this should be entry level. And yes, so some of the roles you perform, yeah, so let's go down and see. Yes, so we have CompTIA N+ and A+. So you realize that they didn't even say Network Plus. It just said N+ or A+. So sometimes the keywords may vary, but just look out for descriptions when you're looking out for entry-level jobs. And I'm sure you see some of these IT certifications mentioned. Okay, so let's now turn attention back to Homelab projects. And in here, I have a logical representation or a topology of what systems I would like to have in my personal Homelab project. I created this using Microsoft Visio. Visio can be used to visualize and create network topologies. And if you want to learn about Visio, you can comment and I'll probably make a video on how to use Visio. So in here, I have the internet, I have a router, I have a firewall, and then it connects to a switch. And I have three systems down here, which are client machines, and I have a server. And on this server, I have something called Active Directory Domain Services. So an Active Directory, a directory basically has names and different attributes, right? So it's similar in here. So on this server, it has names and it has the identity of different users, their accounts and their authentication details. So it helps different machines or users to connect onto the network using their credentials, and it's offered on a server. So in this Homelab project, you can have so many sub projects, as many as 8, and you can even customize this project and add other things. You can add printers, you can add more routers, you can add more systems running different types of operating systems, and you can have so many sub projects to put on your resume to show that you have hands-on experience. And one thing I'll always encourage is you should always document your Homelab projects, whether you blog about it, you do a video on it, or you make a topology, a picture of your Homelab setup, and you can post it. It helps to show that indeed you have some evidence to show that indeed you performed these functions. So this particular Homelab project is aimed at helping you get started in IT. And there are some basic skills which run across entry-level IT positions. So an IT help desk, you probably be resetting passwords, and that is done using the Active Directory domain services. You probably will be assigning IP addresses to different systems on the network. That is done on the DHCP server. You probably will install operating systems on a new machine or a faulty machine, and it's good to know how to do a clean install, partition a drive. And so I've put all this in mind and created a simple entry-level Homelab project and sub projects that you can do to get started. So the first one will be to install and configure Windows Server 2022. I have a video on that on my channel. I showed how to go through that using one of the hypervisors, Hyper-V, and I have a video on how to use other types of hypervisors to create virtual machines. So I'll quickly show you my setup in VirtualBox. That's one of the types of hypervisors that we have. We also have VMware Workstation, Player, and Hyper-V, and a host of others, but these 3 have been covered on my channel. I would personally recommend VirtualBox because it's open source and it has a lot of customizable features, and I normally create a lot of content using VirtualBox. Okay, so in here we have my Homelab setup on the right, virtual Homelab setup, and then I have the topology on the left to guide us. So you realize that this is Oracle VirtualBox, what I would recommend, but you can equally install all these on VMware Workstation Player or Hyper-V, which I have covered in my previous videos on this channel. So Windows Server 2022 has been installed, and if I launch it, you see that I have Active Directory Domain Services and DHCP running. And I also have I have a Windows 10 VM on it. I have Ubuntu, I have pfSense, which is a router and a firewall. And I have a video on that already on my channel. And I have Kali Linux, which is used mostly for ethical hacking and also for basic network reconnaissance and research. So I will be uploading walkthroughs on all these types of virtual machines. But I have to mention here that if you are installing virtual machines on a system, it uses part of your hardware. So you should have a decent running system with a good hardware support. What I mean here is you should have adequate gigabytes of RAM. If possible, you should have at least 8 to 16 gigabytes of RAM, because the same minimum requirements you would have for installing the physical operating systems will apply here. So I believe for Windows Server, you can get by with about 2 gigabytes of RAM. So you see here that is saying that its base memory is 2 gig here. So you can install Windows Server with 2 gigs. And in here, I installed its storage. If you look here, it has 20 gigabytes. So I installed it with only 20 gigabytes. So with that in mind, let's look at Windows 10. I think Windows 11, you cannot install it with less than 64 gigabytes. So that is why I installed Windows 10 and not Windows 11. But if you have enough disk space, you can try Windows 11. And here, Windows 11 too, you need at least 4 gigabytes of RAM, I believe. And for Ubuntu, I think Ubuntu can run on 2 gigabytes. And pfSense is both a router and a firewall. It can run on just 1 gigabyte or even 512 megabytes. And I have Kali Linux, and Kali Linux is running on 2 gigabytes of RAM. So I'll personally recommend, if possible, have 16 gigabytes of RAM. If you only have 8, then you can't install all of these. You can install some of these and probably uninstall them and install others. Or another thing you can do is install all of them, but don't run them simultaneously. Run one at a time. Yes, that probably will work if you have about 4 or 8 gigabytes of RAM. I think 4 is too low. 8 gigabytes should be the minimum. And you can have all these virtual machines running on your system. So you can go through all these sub projects, install and configure a Windows server, install and configure a Windows 11, install Linux, Ubuntu, Kali Linux, create an Active Directory Homelab that will be in a Windows server, and create a firewall administration Homelab that will be with a pfSense firewall, which I already have a video on that, which you can check out. And install and configure DHCP services that will also be on the Windows server, and create a penetration testing lab that will be with Kali Linux. So there are several things you can do. So I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel and watch out for upcoming videos. You can also go to the previous videos and check out some of these sub projects which have already been done.